terms of dashboard, yes, there does seem to be an increase. There seem to be a variety of consultants, whatever, who are producing proprietary products to enable people to feed in all the information and various assumptions and get out the information as to how much you're. I think that does seem to be increasing, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be indicating that the information is being used to take action.
It comes back to this pace of change as well, because I think we've got to take into account what's happening with society, and how people access this information has also got to keep pace with what's happening. So, I was reading a report the other day which said that by 2020 there's an expectation that up to 50% of office workers as we know them will be working remotely. So more and more so we've got to think about what's happening with technology, what's happening with the workplace, and as Jonathan was just alluding to, when it comes to designing the programs, looking at that workplace, and more so I think we're going to start looking at employees as customers, where we're saying, look, the expectation is that people access information when they want it, how they want to access it. And again, it's coming down to that personal choice. Technology is becoming very personal for people. People like their tablets. The line is becoming muddier now between work and home. People often use one device for doing everything, whether it's work or home life. So when it comes to designing those programs, we've got to take into account, are people actually going to come to a physical workplace anymore? Or is this something that's got to be delivered through technology and is there for when people want it, how they want it?
And I think the thing about technology, the good thing about technology is it has the potential to make it a lot more accessible to people, to appeal to the mass market, but also it has the potential to reduce costs. And I think, going back to when we started talking about what are the barriers to people making good financial decisions or thinking about financial things, it's the cost of actually getting independent financial advice. And there's a bit of a gap at the moment where, okay, you can go to an independent financial advisor and take, financial advice, but you need that requires you to go through a process, and they require you to give all your sort of financial circumstances and information and feed those in, and that makes it very costly. What we're talking about here is something that's not quite financial advice, because as you were saying before, there is an opportunity to do that at retirement, for example, where people do need to make important choices, but it's going through that process through the life cycle where you're getting good quality and strong guidance throughout that process. And I think technology is one area where there is real potential for innovation and being able to develop those products and allow employers to use those products to tailor it and brand it according to how they want to do it, but then to use that to be able to appeal to the workforce.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think you've got to be careful as well that we have this stereotypical image that the older the workforce, they don't embrace the technology. I was looking at some statistics last week, and it was showing the different social generations and how many of them, percentage-wise, access technology. And the baby boomer generation are still at something like 84% who are technology savvy. When we get into Generation Z, we're at 99%. So we've got to remember, we sometimes say, we have to be careful with technology because some people still prefer paper. No, society's moved on. Everybody has an email account. Everybody, shops online. Everybody has to do online banking. The assumption that people won't embrace technology, they have different learning styles for how they embrace it, for how naturally it comes and how much support is needed. But people are online now. People will use technology.
I agree with you. There's not an issue about people's ability to use technology, generally speaking. The issue seems to be around some of this subject matter is their desire to get engaged in it. So the obstacle is not the technology. The obstacle is, do I care enough about this? Do I have enough interest in this to actually want to go online or use the app or whatever? So we've certainly found that if you can engage people in a subject matter, and sometimes that's quite hard through technology because how do you do that? How do you engage someone around pensions using a bit of technology? It's actually quite hard. But if you manage to get them engaged, and sometimes that does need to be face to face, or running a road show, or doing something in your staff canteen, or something that's a bit more physical. actually then supporting that with technology to say, well, actually, so you understand what it means for you as an individual, actually, you can now go and use this app, or you can now go and, you know, because you've then motivated and given people almost the reason why they should do it, because I think the problem with a lot of this stuff is they don't really get what's in it for them, so they don't bother.
And I think it goes back to your point, Jonathan, about linking the messaging back to, you know, where they are and at what stage they are in their life cycle, because when it becomes personalised and they can actually envisage, you know, what it means to them on a personal level and a practical level, then, you know, that's when they become engaged.